political redemption stories usually seem too good to be true. Still, in 1881, Daniel America witnessed something remarkable, a corrupt political insider becoming one of our most surprising reformist presidents while secretly battling a fatal disease.
That's such a fascinating way to look at Chester Arthur's presidency, Pappy. How does someone go from being called a corrupt puppet to a champion of good government?
Well, picture this. Arthur was basically the definition of a political insider making more money as New York's pork collector through kickbacks than the president's salary. Then suddenly, after Garfield's assassination, this same man is thrust into the presidency.
Hmm. And everyone must have been terrified, right? Given his connections to the notorious Roscoe Conkling political machine?
Oh, absolutely. And here's what makes it even more incredible. While everyone was expecting him to continue the corrupt practices, he was secretly dealing with Bright's disease. This fatal kidney condition made his hands shake so badly that he could barely write.
So, what do you think sparked such a dramatic transformation in him?
There's this fascinating story about a woman named Julia Sand who wrote him these incredibly moving letters urging him to be better than his past. But here's the real kicker. He knew he was dying the whole time he was making these massive reforms.
That adds such weight to his decisions, Pappy, knowing your time is limited and choosing to spend it dismantling the very system that made you wealthy.
And we're talking about major reforms here. Daniel, the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act of 1883 completely revolutionized how government worked. Before this, every new president would fire literally thousands of federal workers and replace them with their supporters.
Well, that must have made him some powerful enemies among his old political allies.
Oh, Daniel, you better believe it did. Imagine telling your friends who helped make you rich that the party's over. But here's what's fascinating. He didn't just stop at civil service reform. He launched this massive modernization of the Navy, transforming it from wooden ships to what became known as the New Steel Navy.
Though we should probably address some of the more problematic aspects of his presidency, like the Chinese Exclusion Act.
Right? And this is where history gets complicated. While he was progressive in some areas, he also signed the first law explicitly banning immigration based on nationality. It's a stark reminder that even reformers can support policies that we now recognize as deeply discriminatory.
What about all those stories about his fancy suits and White House renovation? Was that just for show?
Well, here's something wild. The man owned 80 pairs of pants and brought in Louis Comfort Tiffany himself to redesign the White House. But get this, he actually paid for a lot of the renovation himself after selling off 24 wagon loads of old furniture.
So, what happened to all his reforms after he left office?
That's where it gets fascinating. The civil service reforms actually stuck and expanded. By 1900, about 40% of federal jobs were merit based, and today it's over 90%. But Arthur himself died just a year after leaving office at age 57.
Mm hmm. And yet, his impact clearly lived on well beyond his death.
What's really striking? Before he died, he ordered all his personal papers burned, almost like he was trying to erase his past. But that very act of trying to hide his transformation made historians even more intrigued by his story.
It's amazing how many parallels we can draw to modern politics, the struggle between political patronage and merit, immigration policy, and modernizing government institutions.
And that's precisely why his story still resonates. Mark Twain, who was usually pretty cynical about politicians, actually called Arthur the most experienced and capable man who has ever filled the presidential chair. That's quite a turnaround for someone who started as the gentleman boss of a corrupt political machine.
So maybe the real lesson here is about the capacity for genuine change in politics, Pappy.
Exactly right, Daniel. Chester Arthur shows us that sometimes the most effective reformers are the ones who know exactly what needs fixing because they've seen the problems from the inside. It's like the old saying, it takes a thief to catch a thief,